everyone. This week we're going to be talking about birds. Another thing that happens with birds in the spring, which is the season we're in, is that they build a nest and they lay their eggs and new babies are born. And we're going to be finding out a lot more about that in a story we're going to be reading soon. But the main bird in the story, have you heard the nesting bird, is a robin. And I think that most people that will be watching this have robins visit in the spring. And it's one of the first signs that spring is back, is that the robins arrive. And robins are a brownish gray bird with an orangish red belly, which is why they're called the red-breasted robins, even though it's not like the bright red that we call red. It's more like an orange with some red in it. And the male robins have a darker black head. And so what we're going to do today for our craft is we're going to make a rocking robin. And in our bag, paper clipped all together, are the parts that you need for your robin. So the only other thing that you need is the glue stick and a pair of scissors. So to make our, and we also need to have our a black marker to make the eyeball. And then if you want it to be realistic, what you need to have is a black crayon to kind of make it look a little gray, and a red crayon to give it a little more of a reddish tint to the orange. So what I'm going to show you today is how you put the bird together. And we're going to be looking at some shapes. We have 2 black circles for the head. We have this yellow square that we're going to cut in half diagonally, and that means across from one point to another, to make it into a triangle for the beak. We're going to we have a little piece of white paper that we're going to cut out for the eyeballs. We have a brown rectangle that we're going to cut in half to make the tail feathers. We have these 2 orange pieces that kind of look like a lopsided smile that are the belly. We have a brown heart that we're going to fold and cut in half to make the wings. And we have a big brown circle that we're going to use for the body of the bird. So the way we're going to start is we're going to take the big brown circle and we're going to fold it in half. And you just do that by lining up the sides. And you put it down and you just press along that line. So now you have the beginning of the bird's body. And you see how it needs to have a little weight because this is not going to rock well. So we just make sure you press this very, very, very well. And then you're going to take the little orange smileys. And using a glue stick, you can use white glue. It'll just be a little messier and it'll take a little more time to dry. So as I've always told you, you glue the smaller piece to put on the big piece. And you just want to line this up right along the edge of the circle. And you press it down. So that's one side of your bird. So you just want to turn it over and you want to make sure that you get the part. If you look at this, you'll see one part comes a little more to a point and one part's like a little wider, a little more lopsided. That's the front, this is the tail. So on the first side, it doesn't really matter how you line it up. But now that you have this done, you want to make sure that you now know this is the front. So when you glue this one, you want to glue this side so that it is lining up the same way as the other side of your bird. So you just stick it on there. And you line up and press it down. So now that you have the bird lining up on both sides. And now what you want to do is take, this is going to be the wings, and we're going to take this heart and we're going to fold it in half. So this is good practice for your, to make sure you can like see how it lines up evenly. And then you're going to press it down, and along that part where you just pressed it, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut down, right down along that line. And so now you have the two halves of the heart, and they're making the wings. And so the same way that we were looking at that, we'll be doing that with this. But we're going to put them aside for just a minute so we line them up the correct way. We're going to go ahead and work on the head. So to start with working on the head, we're going to take our yellow square and we're going to also fold that in half. So you had a yellow square and now you have a yellow triangle. So you're going to cut right along where you have folded. So getting from the one square, you now have two yellow triangles. And you're going to take one of the triangles and you're going to fold it in half to make the beak. So you're going to be using with one circle right now for the head, and you're going to be using this, and all you want to do is get the very edge of the yellow and put it on the circle like this. And as you see, this part flaps up, but that's okay because you're going to be gluing the other part of the head on, and that will glue that down, and you'll end up with something that looks like this. So you want to take the other circle, and this is very important. Only glue the top part, and I'll do it on this one so you can see. You only want to glue the top part of the head right now. And that the reason being is that you're going to be, and glue a little bit of the bill. The reason being is that you're going to have the top closed, but you want to have the bottom of your circle still open, like this, so you can glue it onto the body of your bird. So we're looking at this and we're looking, okay, here's the front of my bird. So that's the part that I'm going to be putting the head onto. And we're getting the very bottom part where it's still open. And we're going to go ahead and glue. I'm going to show you the bottom here and the bottom here. And we're going to place it onto, having it folded like this, you're going to place it on so the head is like this. And that's going to help balance our bird, to help him rock a little bit. And if the glue isn't sticking really well, go ahead and sometimes, you know, your glue stick dries really quickly before you get a chance to glue very well. So put the glue on there again. Make sure it sticks really well. Now, see how I'm going to move him aside so you can see he's a little more balanced. This guy looks like he's getting ready to eat. And the reason being is that he doesn't have the balance of his tail yet. But we're going to go ahead and put him aside for just a second while we take the wings. And I'm going to have to add a little bit more glue on him because he doesn't want to stay glued to the beak. Ah, that's better. Okay, so now we have our wings. And let's go ahead and glue one of them. And we're only going to glue this part here. And now that we have the head on, we're going to want to have the straight part on the upside and the round part down on the body. So what we're going to do is place it, and we're going to put it at a little angle so he's sticking up just a little bit above the body. And as you see, I placed it a little bit down from the head, and the front part lines up with where it is folded, but the back part of the wing is coming up a little bit off of the body. And so what I want to do now is I'm going to lay him down like this, and it tells me how I glue this guy, because I want to have this at the top part of the body and this down on the body. So that means I'm gluing this side. And you just want it, that's how it goes, so you know that's where you glue. And you just glue this top part where it's really round. And you kind of line him up, and he doesn't have to be lined up perfectly. We're going to put him so his little wings are a little bit different. And this part is lined up with the folding part. So now he has wings on both sides. And we're going to go ahead and do the tail so it balances him out so he can really rock. So we take our rectangle, we fold it in half. So we still have a rectangle. It just is long and skinny. So once again, we're going to cut right along where we have folded our rectangle. And if you look at mine, you will see that I have like feathered it a little bit to kind of give the impression of feathers. And so you can do that also. This is very, very good high eye-hand coordination and practice with the scissors. And all you're doing is having them take the very end and cut like this. And then you can have them curl it just a little bit to give the impression of the feathers. So let's do that on the other one. And if you have one or two or three or a lot, depending on how well and how happy of a cutter you have, you will have the different little feathers. So then you want to glue the end that has not been cut. Just gluing the very tip of it, and you're putting it in right up here where the fold is. And you can have it come straight out, or you could have it go up a little bit. And you want to do this on, one on both sides of the bird's body. And before we put on the eyes, let's see if it's going to rock for us. It's balanced because the weight of the head and the weight of the tail have evened it out. And so, yes, he's going to rock. And so what do we still have to do for our bird is we're going to take this little tiny piece of white paper, we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to cut two kind of teardrop, circle-ish type things out to make the eye. And if you fold it over before you start cutting, then you know that your eyes are going to be the same shape and same size on both sides of your bird's head. And I have given you, I know you're going to say, well, Miss Mary, that's a really tiny little piece of white paper, but it is big enough for the eyeballs for our robin. And so you're just going to cut something out like this. And I know it's hard to see, so I'm going to hold it in my other hand. You're going to have two of these. I have them both in my hand right now. And if you see, when I split it open, I have two. And so very carefully, I'm going to glue this, and the pointed part of the eyeball I'm going to have facing towards the body, and the round part I'm going to have facing out towards the beak, and I'm putting it almost in the middle of the head. And then you just do the same thing to the other one. And you use either a crayon or a marker to make the little black iris part of the eye. And then you have your rocking robin. And so I just wanted to show you really quickly, these are real robin's nests. And the robin is one of the birds that makes a new nest every year. And so once they're done with this nest, and if you can see, I'm not sure the camera's picking it up quite as closely as you would if you were looking at it. The female robin has collected a lot of grasses and sticks and woven it into this shape, and then she's used mud to give it its permanent shape. And this is the size her nest is, versus another little bird that makes an entirely different kind of nest. And this is just grass. And you can see how much smaller and how much daintier it is. This one will hold quite a few larger eggs and will hold a mother robin as she's sitting on her eggs. This one is a much smaller bird. I don't know, maybe a hummingbird. I don't know, something very small. And one more thing before we go to read our story, I wanted to show you what a real robin's egg looks like after the baby bird has hatched. There is, if you look at Crayola crayons, they actually have a crayon called Robin's Egg Blue, and it is this shade of blue. This is a real robin's egg. And you can see that over here, it has a hole in it, and that's where the baby robin hatched from. And so they hatch out of these eggs. As you can see, they have cracked them and come out of these eggs to be a live little bird. And what the mother bird does then, which is something I never knew before, I always wondered why I would find eggshells laying around in yards and on streets, but nowhere near a nest, nowhere near a tree. And I thought, well, maybe the wind blew them out or something. The mother robin takes the shells out of the nest for several reasons. One, to clean the nest and give the baby birds room, but also if she just dropped them down from where the nest was, then things that aren't really good, creatures that aren't really good for baby birds, would know where her babies were, and it would make it a lot harder for her and the father robin to protect them. So she takes them, flies off with them, drops them way away from where the nest is, and that helps protect her babies. So come and find out a little bit more about why you don't hear the nesting bird. Welcome back, everyone. So we just finished making our Rockin' Robin, and so now we're going to read a story and listen to a story about birds that are singing their songs to us, and one that's not singing at all. And the story is called Have You Heard the Nesting Bird? And this is by Rita Gray, and the illustrations are by Kenyon Pack. And we have read quite a few stories by Rita Gray, and several stories that are written and illustrated by Kenyon Pack. So here's just one more, and we're going to look at one special bird that's nesting right now. And this is the robin, the one that we made today as our craft. So, have you heard the nesting bird? Morning doves take their morning stroll. Coo, 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 coo. Woodpeckers call from a tree in the hole. Coo, 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 coo. Starling sings from a metal pole. Whistle wee, wee tree. But have you heard the nesting bird? What bird? Where? That robin nesting up there. Sparrow makes a simple jingle. Cha-dick, cha-dick. Swallows slide from under the shingle. Ha-ha, chick, chick, chick. Ha-ha, tweet or tweet. But have you heard the nesting bird? Not a single tweet or twill. This nesting bird is still. Cardinal wears a pointy hat. Choo, 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 purdy, purdy, purdy. Chickadee is an acrobat. Chickadee, dee, dee. Catbird sounds like a hungry cat. Meow, meow. But have you heard the nesting bird? It doesn't sing, not a bit. All it does is sit and sit. Blue jays screech as sharp as a drill. Jay, 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 jay. Whippoorwill has his favorite trill. Whippoorwill, whippoorwill. Wood thrush turns the twilight still. Eole, eole. But have you heard the nesting bird? It hasn't sung a single song. This bird has been sitting for so long. And here we are, nighttime. And here's the robin, still up, sitting on her nest, being very quiet. Wait, what's that? Tapping, cracking. Something made a little sound, breaking, shaking. The bird is starting to move around, ruffling, shuffling. The bird flew off with something blue. Can you see the little blue in her feet? Cheeping and peeping. Look, another robin is coming too. The baby birds are here. And then at the very end of the story, they have a question and answer thing that says, a word with the bird. And it asks the bird different questions about why she's so quiet when she's on the nest, and what was that little blue thing that she flew off with. And if you remember, I said something about that when we were making the craft, that she takes it away to, one, clean her nest out, and two, to make sure that none of the other animals or creatures that would want to harm her babies know where the babies are. So if she takes the egg far away, they don't know where the babies are. So it has a lot of other questions and answers for you to find out more about the birds. And I brought something special today. You heard me singing the little bird songs, but I borrowed some little friends from our shop called the Treetop Shop. And this is what they actually sound like, not what I made them sound like. This is a woodpecker. So if you're very quiet, you'll be able to hear this. And here's the blue jay. Here's the cardinal. The little chickadee, the black-capped chickadee or the Carolina chickadee, depending on where you live. And then our little friend from the story, the robin. And so all the birds, besides looking very different, they all sound different also. And if you would like to play and learn more about bird songs and what they sound like, Cornell University has a website all about birds that you can go onto their YouTube section and play a game called Bird Song Heroes. And you'll learn all about different birds and what their call or sound is like. So go outside, listen to the birds, see if you can figure out which one's in your yard.